What's up, everybody? I am Jason Visenberg.
And I'm Michael Visenberg.
Welcome to Viseland. A lot has happened in this week. Mikey, what's going down?
There have been, as you said, just a ton of things happening. It appears they're having the All-Star game. Nobody wants it. Yeah, I guess a few people want it, but I would say the vast minority want the All-Star game.
People that sell things want it. I don't think any of the players.
But at the same time, like, how much are they selling from this All-Star game? Like,
No, but it's like
there are no fans,
It's always been like a big sneaker thing, and they sell the jerseys.
Hey, how about the saying out the All-Star game sneakers, and let's see how that goes.
I'm sure,
make it a lifestyle thing.
No,
very on brand with what's happening with COVID-19 right now. Make it a lifestyle thing, just chilling around the house shoes.
We'll see. But no, I mean, again, as we said on our previous episode, don't think it should happen, but the NBA is going to make it happen.
Yeah, it appears so. It's unfortunate. Like I know we did an All-Star episode where we chose the All-Star teams, and Ben Simmons might be kind of blown up our spot after scoring 42 points. And, and honestly, if we're wrong, then it's totally fine, because we did list a bunch of honorable mentions, and some of them were very, possibly deserving as well.
Well, with people sitting out too, you're gonna, like everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Like Anthony Davis obviously is missing the game, and and there may be players that do end up staying out. You're right. Yeah. I would not blame them at all. Just like I saw in the news recently that Jalen Johnson is stepping away from Duke and has decided to turn pro, which elicited a bunch of hot takes and responses, especially from the people in Durham.
Oh, you gotta have a hot take. So you gotta say something controversial on this. The kid's making a decision about his life. Yeah, I know.
And you have a lot of people on both sides of it. My side personally is that if a player who was a college basketball player who is looking to pursue a professional basketball career wants to do that, then that is absolutely their prerogative, especially in a year that is just like a current year. And especially for Duke, was Duke trying to make like a late NCAA tournament push or anything like that? Like, it's still a possibility Duke can make the tournament. They're Duke. But I don't think that is the reason why. You saw the usual, I don't want to call them names, but the usual suspects throwing out all the things about Jalen Johnson and calling him a quitter and stuff like that, and like, get the heck over it. I don't abide by that. I'm sure that there were things on both sides. We know that Mike Krzyzewski, while he's a fantastic college coach, has not always been perfect. There have been players that have transferred that haven't liked their roles in the past, that have been promised things, like every college coach does. They promise things and sometimes they don't deliver on those things. And maybe that was roster construction. Maybe that was just some of the things that were happening here. Jalen Johnson still did play 13 college games, which was kind of surprising to me, considering the fact that he had injury issues and people thought he might be sitting out the rest of the season anyway at one point. But I personally am excited to see what he does in the upcoming next little while, and I don't hold the leaving Duke against him pretty much at all.
We had him at 14 in our last mock draft, and I'm guessing again, like, it's not going to massively affect position.
No, I don't think it is. He's still first round talent at the very least, and I still think he's one of the more intriguing prospects in this draft. Would have been nice to see him play, a few more high leverage games, but we saw a number of games and we saw what he had to offer. 6'9", talented, I shouldn't say shoot, because the shooting is where there is big, but it can dribble, can pass, has athleticism.
The stat sheet.
Yeah, he does. Absolutely. Sure. That absolutely. He even did shoot well from three, though, on a very, very small sample size, and shot better than I think you would have expected from the free throw line, considering high school sample size also. So Yeah, we'll just see what happens with Jalen Johnson. And the other big thing happening is the G League Ignite finally played their first few games.
Yeah.
And I think it's been a success to me. Like, it's at the very least, it's been intensely fun to watch. And they're 4-0, which I did not expect.
Because again, it's a bunch of individual, people that are focusing on very individual goals of like preparing for the NBA draft versus like.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's as much it, Jace. I think that yes, there are individuals who
they all have experience as well, going against some people in the G League that do, but then they paired them with like Jarrett Jack and stuff, which is helpful.
Yeah, but they've had like months of working out together too, and like I think they've had just a ton of time to work out at this point. They've been around the program for quite a long time, like even before they played their first scrimmages, with one of the scrimmages being very close. The addition of Jarrett Jack, I think, gave them like a new level. He's actually their third leading scorer right now, and do you would consider that the other players probably aren't supposed to be looking for their shots on a consistent basis, but Jarrett Jack has been pretty much like an easy assist at this point. So I think they want him to keep shooting, and I think he's been a big reason that they've won a few of these games. But focusing on the prospects, I felt like Jonathan Kuminga has been the best prospect like almost every game that they played up until their last game against the Iowa Wolves, where Jalen Green finally was, I think, far and away the best prospect in that game. But in the 3 games before, I think you could maybe give the 905 game also to Dacian Nix, who it was his birthday, and he just had a monster game, including like a heave at the end of the first quarter that went in from past half court. And the guy was just on fire. At one point, he Gary Payton 2, where you can hear everything, said something about like, oh, he can't finish or something like that. And Dacian Nix gets the ball back, does a shot fake. Gary Payton 2 goes up to try and block him and comes down and hits him, and Dacian Nix finishes through him, and then like goes in his face and like, hey, buddy, I can actually finish through you. And one thing I will say is Gary Payton 2 in that game, absolutely everywhere, and he was great throughout the game. I believe finished with 6 or 7 steals. But if you want to see a game where all of the G League Ignite looks good, the game against Raptors 905 is that game. That game has been the only game that hasn't been like nationally televised on either ESPN2 or ESPNU. It was on ESPN Plus, but yeah, watch that one. And all 4 of them in that game, Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Green, Dacian Nix, Isaiah Todd, finished in double figures, played really well. Isaiah Todd in that game hit 4 3-pointers, and his only 2-point field goal was like this fading 1-foot shot with like, I think a lot of time on the shot clock, but just like bottom of the net. And so that has been his best game, I feel, so far in the G League bubble. But yeah, the one thing I will say about G League Ignite that maybe I shouldn't have been surprised about is you have 2 likely lottery picks, one player who's like at least on the precipice of the first round, if not like a second round pick, and then a player who has always been a talented big man and kind of, like I'm guessing fighting to be draftable at this point, and maybe there's more G League in his future next year, but another draftable big player. You put them with Jarrett Jack, you put them with a few other talented players that are, like good G League caliber guys, and you've got a good team. Like that's been the thing.
Well, I think it's been a success. Like I think it's been successful, and it'll be interesting to see what happens
absolutely
for it next.
I think the real gauge of success, like I said in my article, is how they look during that rookie year, and first off, it's where they get drafted. And then how they look during their rookie year, how prepared are they for the NBA? Like, did it give them a step up in preparation compared to maybe the other one and done rookies or anything like that?
Yeah, it'll be definitely interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, so far so good. I mean,
yeah. One thing I will say is that Jonathan Kuminga was getting some very positive write-ups and everything, like right around his having his first real struggle in the game against the Iowa Wolves, where he didn't shoot very well. But still, he's so athletic, and he and Jalen Green are just like such high-level athletes. Kuminga, obviously, just big and strong, also passing really well. You'd like to see a little bit more out of that from Jalen Green, but I felt like in the last game he made some really nice passes and was doing a little bit more on ball. But yeah, I'm going to be watching G League Ignite, and I'm sure I'll have more content coming out on that very soon. If you haven't read my article for Perspective Insight, I did a roundtable with Tyler Glazier and Andrew Slater. Definitely go to Perspective Insight and .com and visit the website there. Not to mention that we'll have some highlight tapes coming out, I'm sure, from other draft prospects in G League Ignite, and as always, high school prospects.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, we'll keep seeing, obviously this will come up a lot between now and the draft is really like G League Ignite and the progress and like how these guys are looking. And then, we'll see what happens probably towards signing day, I guess, in the summertime to see who's going to go into, try the program again next year.
Yeah, already a few rumored to be looking at it, but yeah, I won't go into speculation.
Yeah, I mean, like at this point we don't know, but yeah, I think like once you get closer to signing day, that's when people kind of make those decisions, or you see, who might be not wanting to go to college and willing to take that. And I know Rod Strickland recruits pretty well for the program. So G League Ignite is here to stay. But today,
yeah, maybe.
I mean, for like,
yeah, we'll see.
I mean,
so far so good. So far so good.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
Like you're putting these guys, you give them an alternative.
Yeah, I do like that.
And it also can boost some popularity for the G League a little bit. Because again, these guys,
I think it has.
If you've heard about them, you've seen a mixtape, whatever, and you want to, check them out, it's like, here they are.
Yeah. At least amongst a niche market, it definitely is.
Yeah, no, totally. Like, that's why, like, people that are very into that mold, NBA draft, prospects, or just kind of seeing those kind of things. So yeah, definitely interesting to see that it has played out well so far, and hopefully we will definitely be hearing more in the at least not too distant future. But today we got ourselves a good topic of debate, because this list that we put together, I know people are going to have opinions on. And this is, something that we did earlier with our home and native land of Canada. We ranked the 10 best Canadian players in the NBA today. So we
did that as a country.
Yeah. But now we're taking it to, but Canada's the biggest country in the world in terms of land mass. I think that's what they told me in my geography propaganda class.
Was it bigger than Russia?
Yeah, well, because like Russia broke off into some other thing, after the US.
Are you sure that we didn't go to school so far long ago that I guess Russia did break off into
Canada game. I don't know. Whatever. It's a big country. We're talking about a continent now in this episode, a continent that is smaller in terms of land mass, not in terms of population.
Larger in terms of population.
Yeah. In terms of population and honestly having some good basketball competition and players. Obviously, this is where you'll see the top non-NBA leagues in the world over in Europe. That's what we're talking. We're talking the best players from Europe in the NBA today, now. Not career, because I think you have some guys.
Yeah, not career. We're not going into career,
or guys that have good career achievement, but then it's no. Today we got to put together a team. We need these people. This is who we're going to go with.
It's almost like an MVP rankings, something like that for this season. Yeah. So where you would rank them in terms of a top 100 or something along those lines. But yeah, we're basing it largely on this season. Of course, past seasons
will play a factor, but then it's it's not an overall career achievement, because I think there are some guys like Marcus Hall who's immediately to mind, but again, he's kind of at the latter part of his career.
So we're basing it basically, if you rank these players based on this season, we're giving a rough ranking. And yes, I'm sure our minds will change over time as well. That's what happens. But we just want to give, we thought it'd be fun.
At this exact moment of time, this is what's going to come out of our mouths.
Yeah.
Of course, let the debate begin afterwards. If you got some opinions of some players that you think we missed, we underrate, overrate, let us know. That's what comment sections are for. Yeah. That's what Twitter. So definitely let us know, because again, it's a lot of opinion that comes into it at the end of the day. But again, this list gets very competitive towards the top.
Yeah. And when we get into the final tier, we'll go over some honorable mentions and everything like that. But yeah, we're going to do this from 10 and then go to 1.
Yes. So who are we starting it off with, Mikey?
We are starting off with Bojan Bogdanovic of the Utah Jazz, who has represented Croatia in international competition. And he was born in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I first heard about Bojan Bogdanovic as just somebody who was looking at EuroLeague statistics and preparing for the draft, and noticed that this player who was draftable was putting up these huge numbers in EuroLeague, and like one of the leading scorers, if not the leading scorer in EuroLeague. And he took a while to come over.
Yeah, he was drafted 2011, but doesn't actually play his first until 2014-15 is his first year. He does 3 years in Turkey.
Yeah, he was playing for Fenerbahce in Turkey, and he was drafted by Miami, and Miami traded the pick to Minnesota, and Minnesota then traded the pick to, at the time, the New Jersey Nets, and Bojan eventually signs with the Brooklyn Nets, and it has an immediate impact as soon as he comes over. Like, granted, he is 25 years old when he comes over, I believe. And yeah.
But boasting some professional, high-level professional experience.
Absolutely. And more recently, he signed with Utah. Last year was Utah's second leading scorer. Did unfortunately get hurt and was out of the NBA bubble, so missed the end of the regular season and the playoffs. It would have been interesting to see, what would have happened if he were part of the team. Like, I think they were just kind of missing, like, maybe that one little role player, and what he provides is ridiculous movement shooting.
Yeah.
And like, he's just able to hit a number of, like, just a versatile amount of shots, and just a really dangerous, somebody that you just can't leave open. He may be, like, I think he's Utah's third leading scorer this year. I'm guessing behind Donovan Mitchell. So he's behind. Okay, he's their fourth leading scorer. So he's behind Donovan Mitchell, Jordan Clarkson, and Mike Conley.
Oh yeah, Jordan Clarkson had like 40 points the other night. Yeah,
Jordan Clarkson has been like lights out all year. Yeah, he's been crazy.
But Jordan Clarkson would be in, if we do players.
If we did it in international rankings, then he would have to be considered. I think even maybe ahead of Bojan at this point. But yeah, they're at least on similar footings. And yeah, Jordan Clarkson providing something a little bit different. Bojan with more of that typical, like, combo forward size. Yes, like, he gives up a little bit defensively, but I just think the Jazz.
Rudy Gobert behind him.
Yeah, you still. At the end of the day, like, when the playoffs hit,
But I think offensively, I mean, like, on Utah, it's a pretty like interesting. You got him who can stroke. You got like Joe Ingles who could shoot the ball.
Oh yeah, I think Joe Ingles is a player. Like, I don't know what number of player you would call Bojan Bogdanovic on the team right now, but he certainly has been doing well, and Utah has been insane. And Utah currently with the best record in the NBA at this point. They are a ridiculous 23-5. And I didn't see it coming. Yeah. I knew they had done well last year. I guess I should have. I think I had them 6th in my preseason playoff ranking, somewhere around there. And I should have. Yeah, they've well surpassed that. They move the ball so well. And then they, play sufficient defense also and have a post anchor of a European player that we will talk about later that you already mentioned. But I feel like Bojan Bogdanovic has just been a great addition for them. It was a big signing, and for a fair amount of money. But yeah, like for the money that they're giving, like guys like Bojan, like Mike Conley, who I think is in the last year of his deal, but making like huge money this year. And what were you saying?
Wasn't Mike Conley like the highest paid point guard in the league for like a minute?
Yeah, he was for a
Signed
little
that,
while.
like that contract.
Yeah. He signed for a lot of money with Memphis because they really wanted to keep him. And Jordan Clarkson was another player who signed for a nice re-up this offseason as well after making, I think, $15 million last year. I think he's around that range still. But yeah, Bojan Bogdanovic is just a player who's still having a solid year. Like his numbers are a little under last year's, but the team is better. And yeah, like they right now have the best record in the NBA. So it's kind of hard to see them, being a lower, like not having home court advantage in the playoffs, I should say.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting again. They didn't have him last year in the bubble, for the
playoffs. Well, hopefully they'll be healthy, and we'll see what this team can do in the playoffs. They were playing well in the bubble for the most part up until Denver came back and had their little miracle run.
Which they did twice. Crazy.
Yes, indeed.
Still crazy, but more
coming back from 3-1 deficits twice.
More on Denver later to come. But moving on to number 9, we have OG Anunoby out of England.
Yes, he was born in London, England. I don't think he's played internationally as of yet, but I would hope he would play for them. I'm guessing, I think he has dual citizenship, but I'm not sure exactly what player pool he'd be part of or if he has interest in playing international basketball. But yeah, he was born in London, so I'm including OG as a European player. And just like, if Luol Deng, when he was I guess you could consider Luol like either Africa or
Luol also he played for England.
He did play for London. Yeah, he played for I guess England or he played for England. Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. But yeah, the OG we'll definitely count him as I think when his brother did the introduction for him last year when the Raptors they did like that was a pretty English accent going on there. So OG has that cred, but obviously played high school in America, also went to college at Indiana. But
yeah, just a little background on when I saw OG Anunoby. He was playing at Adidas Nations, and the rumor at the time, so he had a really nice freshman year, especially towards the end, and some people felt like he could have possibly entered his name in the draft a year earlier, and he was eventually drafted in 2017, and he was 23rd overall. But yeah, people felt after his freshman year, he had such a great end to that season. They played a game in the tournament against Kentucky, and he like stifled Jamal Murray. And so you saw immediately like the defensive versatility. The rumor always was that he had a 7'6" wingspan at like 6'7". That turned out not to be true, but he still does have an enormous wingspan. He has, I believe, 7'2.5" was I think what he was measured at. And luckily I had numbers going into that season that I knew he didn't have the 7'6" wingspan, but nonetheless, great size for a combo forward. And the thing that I think people were maybe a little bit apprehensive about, and maybe the reason that he slipped a tad in the draft. He had injury issues as a sophomore as well, but the shooting, people were really, kind of wondering how well he would end up shooting. He shot well as a freshman on a pretty small sample size, had a small sample size also as a sophomore in Indiana. But so over his time at Indiana, he shot 36.5%, but he was only 27 of 74 from three. So small sample size. He was a pretty bad free throw shooter. Like straight up bad free throw shooter in college as well. That's changed. That's definitely changed. And as of this year, he was making 43.3% of his threes with 2.5 made 3-pointers per game.
Yeah. So he's letting it go.
Now, if you do recall last year, when he made that ridiculous 3-pointer against Boston, with Taco Fall guarding the inbounder and the whole deal with Kyle Lowry able to stand a little bit further back without somebody saying courtside. When OG made that three, he's like, I think all of them are going in now. And he last year he was shooting 39% as well. So yeah, he's just really, really improved there. The defense was something that I think was pretty immediate, and he's a really great wing defender and just versatile defender. A guy you could switch with, and yeah, he is just great on that end of the floor. I got to see him live as a rookie against the Portland Trailblazers, and it was tied. I think it was tied 29-29, and I believe after the second quarter, the Raptors had held the Blazers to 6 points in that quarter and ended up being ahead by, I think, 17 or so. And OG Anunoby was an enormous reason that was happening. He came off the bench and just stifled the Blazers. So when you're talking about, nobody's going to shut down the super duper stars or anything like that, but OG just plays that role and at least will slow them down. And yeah, he's become a viable offensive player as well. So it's just a great combination as a wing forward. He did just sign an extension with the Raptors as well, and looks to be a big part of their future. One other thing I want to mention that I think kind of gets swept under the rug. I feel like the Raptors playoff appearance, our finals win in 2018-19 gets played down a little bit. And I think, people will mention the fact with the Warriors injuries and everything like that. Well, the Raptors were missing a pretty big piece during that finals run as well in OG.
Yeah.
OG did not play in the 2018-19 playoffs. And if you were saying before the season, OG Anunoby wasn't going to be available for the playoffs, I think that's at least something. And he wasn't really a starter at that point, but he was at least a part of their rotation for most of the year. And yes, obviously Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant are a different level of player than OG Anunoby, but nonetheless, let's just throw in the fact that the Raptors were missing a pretty vital piece during that playoff run as well.
No, totally. And as you said, he's not going to hold Kevin Durant scoreless. Nobody is, but the key is frustration more than
Yeah, well, then obviously Kevin Durant didn't unfortunately play much of that NBA final. Yeah. It was just it was surprising that how well they were able to play. It just showed the depth of that team, and I think also points to how well some of the top players were playing on that team, including Kawhi Leonard, Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, and you have guys like Fred VanVleet, Norman Powell step up also. So yeah, it was can't forget Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol, a lot of great players on that team. And it was surprising to me how well they did without a guy like OG Anunoby. who I think deserves to be on this list this year. And let's move on to number 8. And I don't know, I know he was kind of traded last year for peanuts, and he people wonder, how much he can be a part of like a winning team, considering that on a few of his years in Houston, he was kind of like run off the floor during the Golden State series and stuff like that. But I still think he's a good player and leading the NBA in rebounding this season. He's still a good center. His contract isn't even that bad either. Like it's not a killer. And the player I'm talking about is Clint Capela, who is, I think, like a really top-notch athlete for a center, and may not be the best like in space, and may not be a guy that can switch everything, but still he's one of those really good like run in a straight line at least, and like vertical athletes, and always has been a monster on the boards, provides some rim protection as well. So yeah, I have Clint Capela as number 8. The Hawks have been very up and down and seem to be, on a kind of a losing streak. They've suffered a few injuries. Of course, like losing DeAndre Hunter was pretty devastating. Bogdanovic has been out for a while. So yeah, they've had some injuries that have just, I think, really caused them to struggle. They've lost their last 4 games at this point. And so far on the season, they are, I think, 11-16. So yeah,
probably not going to be Atlanta's year again. But I think
no. Well, the thing is, I don't think they're like out of playoff contention at this point either. But we were predicting. I think I had given them the 8 spot, and they maybe
that was probably there as well, because they were close last year, and
I'm glad I had them ahead of Washington. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, but I screwed that one up. My bad. But no, Clint Capela, I mean, for a little while there, he was looking like one of the obviously not the elite, but like a pretty solid center for Houston.
Has been for quite a while. Like immediately, I felt like he immediately came into the league and played really well. I got a chance to see him at the Hoop Summit in 2014, and I felt like kind of struggled during the week and like had the really ugly looking shot and the whole deal. Like, so he didn't have the best week there, but the thing that really stood out was his like fluidity and like insane vertical athleticism for somebody that was 6'10", 6'11", had that long wingspan. So yeah, he certainly had the measurements for center, had played well in France also. So yeah, he was doing well in the LMB. I think he was playing Pro A at the time, and ended up going 25th. And I think that was much too low. And I do remember, so like shout out to Michael Grange, because he wrote a great article on Chris Boucher. But I remember Michael Grange kind of like handing it to the Raptors on Twitter after Clint Capela had a nice game as a rookie, and Bruno Caboclo was still nowhere really to be seen. So not wrong. I would say not wrong. The Raptors definitely went with their guy and everything. And, there's a whole story there to the fact that, I think either Dallas or San Antonio, one of the teams, would likely have drafted Bruno before he got to their 2nd round pick. And they had wanted Tyler Ennis and didn't get him. So they took their guy a little bit earlier than expected. And Clint Capela has definitely been the better NBA player.
I think a common thread for a lot of European guys is like, you look at their draft position, and for the most part, it's fairly atrocious for a lot of guys that are like really good.
Yeah, can be.
I think we have some high people on the list that like a lot of teams should be kicking themselves for.
For sure. And yeah, I think the biggest misnomer is like them being like a man of mystery, because I think a lot of the time they are. No, I think it's just it's harder to gauge like the French pro leagues and like some of the pro leagues that they're playing in versus like the NCAA, which has that just huge data set and like everything there. But yeah, you still look for some of the same things. And yeah, I think it is like, it's difficult to evaluate European prospects, but to make it seem like they haven't taken like tons of time doing that, and there isn't like a ton of tape on a guy like Clint Capela before the draft, like that's just not true.
Yeah.
Just because he's not as well known in the USA doesn't mean he's a man of mystery.
Yeah, it's by like it's not popularity, like basically is what kind of goes out there. But yeah, no, Clint, like he had a couple of years where he was one of the, like it looked like he was going to stay in Houston, but obviously they shifted on a completely different direction. But hopefully he can, like stick around in Atlanta. Maybe, I don't know. Like they have an interesting front court
I don't know, man. Yeah, they have
going on as well, because they just drafted.
They drafted Onyeka,
Yeah.
and he seems to be coming along slowly. Had injury issues, and then John Collins is best as the 5.
Yeah.
Like that's the other thing. So right now they have 3 guys who, kind of demand minutes at the center spot. And yes, like maybe some of them can play together, but yeah, Clint Capela was in a trade that was just enormous and so convoluted. It's just crazy. But yeah, he was traded to the point where like Houston didn't get like a ton for him.
Yeah, like which was surprising again, because he is a center that can provide some.
Like they got Robert Covington, who they eventually traded for a couple first-round picks. So yeah, and they trade one of those first-round picks, I think, for the future. I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy to me. But
true center in his form. But moving on to our next player at number 7, we have someone who, the size of a center, in height, but definitely does not play center. And we are talking the unicorn. I mean, like kind of.
Let's not go crazy here.
He's not like a true. He's never going to be like a true center. We're talking Porzingis.
Yeah, I think like he's like one of those, like they don't play center, but they're a center. Like
no, I think in a lot of set, like you have a lot of sets where he is like your biggest person on the court, but he's not like I guess like
I don't know, man. I think
posting.
I think in their optimal, well, he's been their center like the past couple of years, and in their optimal lineup, like he's the center. Yeah, like I think that's what you hope with Kristaps. And yes, like upper body strength and like lower body strength have been issues for him at time, and he's not like the classical post-up center. He's definitely one of those, stretch bigs, because he's one of the better shooting big men, like I think in NBA history. Especially when he gets going, like he's ridiculous. But yeah, like right now, obviously not shooting like out of this world, but like when you look at players over 7 feet who shoot 3-pointers on volume, like he's certainly among the best. And
it's not just like, the thing about him too is it's not just like the 7 feet. He's not like 7 foot even. It's like he's 7'3". Like that's a pretty big deal. Like, because usually when you're 7'3", it's like you're kind of a little bigger, lumbering.
Yeah.
Like there's kind of that like happy medium point of like where they start not becoming as athletic and able to shoot or having those skills necessarily. Kristaps like breaks that, like those stereotypes. And he got the 1 All-Star nod, with his time in the Knicks. The only problem he's really had is staying healthy.
That's been a big issue.
That and that's what's really hurt.
And it was such a bummer because he was playing so well last year in the bubble. Like I think he made the all bubble second team or first team, but he averaged 30.5 points per game in the bubble. And the game before he went down, like he had 34 points against the Clippers. So yeah, it was a loss, but nonetheless, like, when he starts shooting threes, it's really hard to stop him. He moves so well. He can rim protect also. Yes, like, he's not posting people up, and, you'd like him to maybe be a little bit better around the basket, but he, yeah, there's a reason he was called a unicorn, and like the skill set and movement skills for a player that size is super, super rare. Yeah, you'd like him to, I guess, be a bit more durable, but he's still like the jury's not completely out. Dallas started to play a little bit better. They started off the season with
yeah, like
struggling on both ends of the floor. Yeah.
Not picking up off their awesome offensive. Yeah, but I think he's still when he's available to play, definitely somebody that you want on your team because he does have such a unique skill set. And this year, he's about 20 points, which is where he was kind of at last year. But yeah, he's shooting about 6 threes a game, making about 35%, which pretty decent for a guy who's 7'3".
Yeah. And like with him, you'd like to see it be maybe a little bit higher. But yeah, he's somebody that is dangerous from every part of the floor also. Just as the offensive player. Yeah, great touch for a player that is 7'3", like ridiculously so.
Yeah, and I think again, like he still has a chance to make. West is a little tougher, but like he still has all-star, not this season, but possibly Dallas comes out to a good start to start the year. I mean, he would definitely be someone that could be in consideration.
Yeah. So Dallas had won 5 games in a row until they lost to Portland. And I was watching the game against the Pelicans where Kristaps had 8 threes. And yeah, he's somebody that can really, once he gets going, it's really tough to stop him, especially, a player that size on the perimeter, just really tough to block a shot or even affect a shot.
And you feel like he was on the Knicks like a decade ago, but he's still, he's still only 25.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's still.
He was 2015 draft.
Yeah, it just seems like, but it seems like that was so long ago. Like him in like the Knicks uniform and that whole thing. But I think
and the Knicks fans getting pissed off and pronouncing his name wrong and going absolutely nuts for drafting him and then absolutely loving him while he was.
That sounds like you're describing some stereotypical Knicks fandom going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kristaps.
Yeah, Kristaps still. I think at least we'll give it a little bit more time. Give it a little bit more time. I think too many people are writing it off right now, and it looked pretty good last year. Is he the perfect complement to Luka? Probably not, but I think it's still interesting at this point. And,
I think it presents.
We'll give it a little more time.
Yeah, prevents some intrigue of just 2 pretty talented, skilled offensive players, but we will see how Dallas continues to roll with it. But moving on, we got another person who, like Kristaps Porzingis, one-time All-Star. We are talking Nikola Vucevic. We got to see him, in college as well because he played in the Pac-12. He played at USC.
Yeah, Vuce was, and still is one. He was really good, and yeah, he was drafted in 2011. He was the 16th pick. Probably, I'd say definitely too low. Yeah, just really, really skilled offensive player. I think at least like passable as a defender, though, not like the greatest rim protector or anything like that, but I think still has like really good length considering his size also.
Yeah, he's pretty but he's a
big dude.
Big dude. Yeah,
really
like you see him. Yeah, I've seen him up close. Like he's a pretty good sized individual.
Yeah. And he's having, I think, like when you're just looking at the raw numbers, well, yeah, I think, take everything into it. I think this is his best season ever. Unfortunately, Orlando is only 10-18 at this point, and it seems like his making the All-Star team may not happen just due to the depth in the East and players being on more winning teams. But he's certainly in the conversation just because he's playing super well. Did I cut out there for a second, or?
I think it might have just hiccup, but yeah, no, everything came out clear on on how
Okay.
he's having a great year right now. It's about 23.5 points a game, 11 rebounds,
11.5 rebounds. Yeah.
Yeah, he's shooting 43% from three. You know, making 2.7
on 2.7 made threes
per game. Yeah, he's that versatile.
Even shooting better from the line.
And he's someone that can make the three, but he's also like a big dude. You can put it in, give it to inside. I definitely always I liked him when he was at SC too. So it was kind of surprising that he did fall in the draft. But yeah, it's kind of sadder for him that he's kind of always just been in Orlando because they don't get too many, nationally televised games.
Well, he started off with Philly, but yeah, they did that trade to Orlando, kind of like, he, well, I think, I guess Orlando had all those centers, or Philly had all those centers. So yeah, that was, I think, part of it. But yeah, it is a little bit too bad that he hasn't got at least a little bit more help around him, and like Evan Fournier has been a good player for them, and then also this year, like just with the injuries, it's been such a bummer.
It's
like last year in the playoffs, like they take Milwaukee to 5, and Vooch was great too. Like Vooch in game 1 of in the playoffs against Milwaukee went for 35, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, and Magic won by 12. So yeah, like he played, I just think, really well in that series, and has just carried that forward into, like, even though they're losing, like his analytics numbers, and yes, they do usually favor centers, but they're still looking good. And yeah, he I think really talented player. You'd love to see him with a little bit more help, like where he wouldn't have to be the focal point. But even as the focal point, like just to be as efficient as he's been is pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's having a great year. Unfortunately, probably not going to end in the playoffs on Orlando's current trajectory. But
he also was born in Switzerland. That's something that I'll mention as well. But has played nationally for Montenegro.
And as we said, played his college at USC. So he was
Indeed
Pac-12, which we take whoever we can get, because
averaged a double as a junior, and became a mid first round pick, and has surpassed that in his NBA time and made that All-Star team.
And then coming in at number 5 is someone who did not go to the Pac-12, ended up playing in the West Coast Conference for his college basketball. We're talking a legacy here. We got Domantas Sabonis, Indiana Pacers, of course, son of the great Arvydas Sabonis of the Portland Trailblazers, and of course the country that Sabonis, both of them, claim is Lithuania. So, he's definitely somebody that, he played a lot of his high school, kind of that time, overseas, ends up coming back to the U.S. to go to Gonzaga. And, he's had a couple really good, solid years for the Pacers. I mean, he was an all-star last year. We kind of projected him again to be an all-star again this year.
We did.
On our radar for that. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's because he is such a good player. It's just funny because his dad is obviously viewed as one of the greatest basketball players, that we never really got to see at the NBA at the height of his athletic ability. By the time he come to the NBA, he kind of had lost a lot of his athleticism. Knees were a little gone, but like just the skill level on him was so insanely high. Like he was such a, unique player, especially at the time when he first came to the NBA, compared to like how a lot of big guys play now. And it's just, his son's made 2 All-Star games, but Arvydas never got to make it to an All-Star.
He's made 1 All-Star game so far, but he should make 2 this year. And we're assuming that Domas makes the All-Star game. There will be competition, of course, but he is looking like he will probably be the Indiana Pacers representative once again, averaging 21 points per game, 11.4 rebounds, 5.6 assists per game. And his dad was such a special passer. And the fact that the past couple years in Indiana, like Domantas has averaged over 5 assists per game, just showing that basketball acumen that is expected from the Sabonis name.
Yeah, you're not
he actually.
Yeah, Arvidas had just like amazing eyes,
incredible hands, incredible
and he even shot that kind of like three, like obviously
amazing basketball IQ.
He was like a sniper or anything, but he had that like kind of 3-point like little laser he used to do every once in a while. Like literally, it had like no arm on it, like straight in, straight into the basket.
The guy was just a basketball genius, and like tremendous physical ability, touch. Great player, and his son Domantas has been fantastic. He was playing basketball in Spain before coming to Gonzaga, and just I think immediately hopped on the scene at Gonzaga and was just at least immediately like a role player. And then his sophomore year, he was one of the best players in the NCAA. He volleyed that into being the 11th pick
by the Orlando Magic, who then moved to Oklahoma City.
So played a year with Vuce and was in the Oklahoma City trade for Serge Ibaka. And Domas is just, I think, taken some major steps upon coming to Indiana. And he is, become
their whole year once he went down, in the bubble too. It was like took a lot.
A bubble. I felt like Indiana played pretty well without him, but once they played Miami in the playoffs, like it was over. And Indiana actually being the higher seed between the two because they had won the tiebreaker in that last game of the bubble. But it was devastating finding out that Domantas Sabonis wasn't going to be with Indiana in the playoffs. And he's been their main player. And I feel like Malcolm Brogdon have been kind of their guys. And Miles Turner, of course, playing exceptionally well as a defender also this year. But Domas has just become one of the better bigs in the NBA, and very deserving of this list, and has slowly, I think, built up in these rankings.
Definitely. And I think he's got a good chance to keep going in Indiana and kind of being one of their dudes for a while. So hopefully,
you hope so.
Carries on there. And I think like Miles Turner is good to have another big guy to
talking about young guys too.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's a team you don't see a lot on on television all the time. And you're like, it's kind of intriguing team when you start to kind of look, dig deep into the roster. But the next player that we have, number 4 on our list, this man is crazily enough was I think there's 1 or 2 years where he was literally the worst rated player in NBA 2K. Which
blasphemy.
Shows what they know. We were talking Rudy Gobert. Looking at his nicknames, there's some good ones. The Stifle Tower, the French Rejection. But my personal favorite, the Gobert Rapport. Shout out to Gobert Rapport.
Godzilla.
Never heard that one until you look at his Basketball Reference. But
Basketball Reference has nicknames that no one has ever heard of.
I think they just pay people to just come up with that.
It's let's just come up with the most random nicknames that no one's ever used, and it's fun. I won't lie, I respect the hustle.
But definitely Rudy Gobert, one of the premier shot blockers in the league right now. Again, made an All-Star team last year, so possibly, scoring
first ever All-Star for Gobert too.
He scoring has gone down a little bit this year, but again, that's also paired with 13.9 points a game, 13.5 rebounds, 2.8 blocks. He's definitely the sweeper at the rim.
Not to mention, also, as we had said earlier, Utah has the best record in the NBA. So he's constantly a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. It has been for quite a while. has won 2 back-to-back in 2017-18 and 2018-19. Was runner-up to Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think, last year for DPOY. And will be in the running this year also, especially with how well Utah is doing. Just a guy who you can build a defense around, you want near the basket, isn't necessarily like the greatest in space. And, you've heard some players be like, well, like, if he's defensive player of the year, like, why is he so easy to score on at times? But I think most of the time, not so much. Like, he does a great job around the basket. And he, the thing I think that's really caused his, I would say, NBA 2K rating to go up is initially he was just, I would say, like a bad offensive player, and has improved there like a tremendous amount. Like the fact that he is that killer as a roller, and just a player that you need to worry about around the basket at this point. So I think that's helped quite a bit. Never like the greatest passer, but I think has just also gotten a lot better, like in terms as a decision maker and ball mover, as everybody in Utah has seemed to get the last little while. And I think you can say like Donovan Mitchell is kind of like the guy of Utah, but it's he and Rudy Gobert. It really is. And Rudy Gobert obviously signed this enormous extension with Utah, but he's a center that I think is always going to have you as one of the better defensive teams in the league. And you can't say that about too many players in the NBA at this point. He has continued to be really, really good, as Utah has the second-ranked defensive rating in the NBA at this point.
And then, coming into the league, drafted 27th by Denver Nuggets.
Yes.
So again, it's one of those situations where it's like, oh man, he was 27th.
I'll be honest. I watched him at the NBA draft combine and saw the way that he moved, and I didn't like it.
Well, yeah, because by nature, he's a big, more lumbering type.
I think then you watch him on a court, and it's a whole lot different. Like, watching him run up and down the court, like in drills, versus watching him run up in a game, it's different. And I probably should have looked at more tape, and I don't think I was as in depth into the draft back then as I am now. But I wasn't super high on him. He, of course, for the longest time was the wingspan guy in the NBA with 7'8", 7'9" wingspan, and at 7'2". He when you went to NBA Summer League, like it was Rudy Gobert with his arms stretched out. And I think Taco Fall puts him to shame there. But
who's the other? Walter Tavares, remember that guy? We saw him at NBA Summer League. That was a very, very large individual.
Yep. Indeed. Walter Tavares is enormous. But Rudy Gobert, they list him at 7 feet on
I know it seems like he gets listed a little higher, but either way, his presence is pretty.
7 feet without shoes, I guess. Maybe. I always thought he was 7'2". But
I feel like that's what I'd heard before. But again, maybe he doesn't want to seem
always among the NBA's leading shot blockers, leading rebounders. This year, averaging actually under 10 rebounds per game, which is 13. 13.2. He's at 10 defensive rebounds per game.
Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah, he's getting more than a lot of people get. Period, just defensively. But so he's a huge.
And then also like doing quite well on the offensive boards too. So he's Rudy Gobert leading the NBA also in defensive rating at this point. He's in an era where scoring is at a premium. He's doing quite well defensively, and has, I think, made Utah like a significantly better team in his time with them.
One year, and you'll see, like
He
how
learned that this year.
when Utah goes to the playoffs too. Again, he's that guy that's going to match up with some other pretty marquee centers, which is nice to have, especially with Donovan Mitchell went off like he did last year. That'd be pretty good. And again, like as we said, like Utah's a pretty interesting team when you really look at how the roster was constructed. It's like they could do something in the playoffs possibly.
Yeah, we'll see. Because last year, Jokic definitely, I felt, got the better of Rudy, but I don't think Rudy's been terrible in the playoffs like some people tend to believe. I don't think he's like a guy that gets completely played off the floor or anything like that. I just think there are a few better big men than him in his own conference.
So that was Rudy Gobert coming in number 4. But now what we're about to do is kind of, this is like almost a pause break here because we're kind of launching into this like final sort of tier.
Yes.
Yeah, like
and so I think that's a perfect time to do the honorable mention list.
Because you can kind of see like who are those guys that have not been mentioned yet.
Yes.
And it's like your mind.
They're not going to be mentioned. So yeah, let's just name these guys and just a few players that kind of came to my mind that were under consideration. So Lauri Markkanen of Chicago and Finland, Dennis Schroeder, who has kind of struggled a bit this year, Germany and Los Angeles Lakers, of course, Evan Fournier, France and Orlando Magic, Ricky Rubio, Spain and the Minnesota Timberwolves, Yusuf Nurkic, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and he is with the Portland Trailblazers, Bogdan Bogdanovic with the Atlanta Hawks in Serbia, Jonas Valanciunas with Memphis and Lithuania, Serge Ibaka, Spain and the Los Angeles Clippers, Danilo Gallinari, Italy, Atlanta Hawks, Nicholas Batum, France and Los Angeles Clippers, Goran Dragic, Slovenia, Miami Heat, Jakob Poeltl, Austria and the San Antonio Spurs, Daniel Tice, Germany and Boston Celtics, Maxi Kleber, Germany and the Dallas Mavericks, Marc Gasol, Spain, Los Angeles Lakers, Ivica Zubac, Croatia, and we'll round it out with Enes Kanter, who is Turkey and Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, and I will say Boban
Marjanovic
is number 1 in our hearts, but unfortunately we rank this on Basketball Top. But off the court, like he is that.
Who does Boban play for?
He's still in Dallas?
No, internationally.
Oh, that's a good question.
It's Croatia.
Oh,
isn't he? I hope so.
Yeah, there's always subject to change.
Is he Serbia? Damn it, dude.
I always forget where he's from, but like he seems like a good personality.
Am I that dumb that
He's Serbian.
Oh God.
He plays on the Serbian national team.
I'm the worst. I apologize, Boban.
Competition. But I didn't know that either, so I also apologize to Boban, but so be it. But going into number 3.
But he's Nikola's backup. I should have known that. God, it's been a while. International competition comeback.
Well, when you look at all the cups in qualifying now and all the people that are playing for a lot of countries, because obviously the NBA guys are all playing in the NBA, so a lot of these countries are bringing in a lot of BCCs. Yeah, international basketball. It's kind of been a while since there's been something worth really investing in it and watching.
I feel so bad now. God, I'm dumb. All right,
Bobby,
we'll get over it.
But coming in, we got his number 3.
Almost unforgivable.
Of these, this is like the top tier here. We got number 3. We have the young guy out of Slovenia. We got Luka Doncic.
We do have Luka Doncic. If it was future rankings, it might be higher, but we're doing this season, and he has been really quite fantastic once again. But I think you have to lean the couple other guys.
It's a tough competition when you're really looking at who else is still out there. But he's just like a tick under 30 a game. He's a tick under 10 assists a game.
Yeah, he's the player that I think you would most want to build a team around at this point. But yeah, just I still feel like the other players maybe just are a tad ahead of him, though his last 2 games have been absolutely insane. He had a 46-point performance against the New Orleans Pelicans and followed that up with 44 points against the Trailblazers on 14 to 20 shooting, including a fantastic look at a potential game-winning basket.
Yeah, that was
so, yeah.
That was a hard sack right there. But yeah, Luka's great, and I mean, it's still 21 years old. Future is insanely bright for him. But yeah, like it's super tough when you look at the other 2 guys that come up next. But I mean, definitely, this is where the debate would definitely get very, very close, and possibly from some people probably a little heated, but you can't really argue with, just to launch into number 2, just because, again, these guys are also sort of close. Number 2, and this is
one second. I just wanted to say a little bit more about Luka. So he was first team All NBA last year, and he was just also the crazy part with that first team All NBA is it was the 3 European guys and Anthony Davis and LeBron James, right? Like, isn't that nuts?
I think that's how the league checks out these days.
Oh, no. Okay. No, it was, one of them was on the second team. Anthony Davis claimed the center spot on the first team last year, and James Harden was the other player. But yeah,
this year might be
Doncic,
different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can move on to number 2.
Number 2, and again, like these guys so closely ranked, this is going to surprise some people as well. We are talking Giannis Antetokounmpo coming in at number 2.
I don't even know if you came close to pronouncing that name right.
I did a bit of a dry throw. Giannis Antetokounmpo coming in at number 2.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. I went for it, guys. I went for it. He is the 2-time MVP. Milwaukee's still really good. He's still great. He's still incredible at finishing around the basket. It's so hard between these 2 players, but yeah, I went like Giannis, of course, like had an epic season last year, wins MVP once again, wins Defensive Player of the Year, and is still doing fantastic this season as well. Like, he's still, like numbers right around the same. He's a little less on like a per minute basis, but still pretty close, and like higher just in terms of, or no, like a little lower. But yeah, he's still doing really well. Milwaukee still, I think, is going to be in the thick of things in the Eastern Conference. And as I said, like even last year, I'm a Giannis in the playoffs apologist. But yeah, the shooting is something that you're worried about, like the fact that, he's just not a catch and shoot player really at all. And kind of, I think, like hurts him a little bit as an off-ball player, but so good on ball. Obviously has been a really good passer as well, and like is somebody who I think a majority of his assists are for 3-point shots, and Milwaukee's surrounded him with a really good supporting cast again. I think they've struggled a little bit with Drew Holiday being on the protocols right now, but when they have a full their squad's at full health, I think they're going to be quite a good team again. And Giannis is still fantastic, still at least in the thick of things for being all NBA first team. But yeah, like it's still among the best players in the NBA.
And like amazing player. And I still harken back to like the first. I remember like before his draft, like hearing like because not a ton was known on him at that time. In this situation, I remember it was like Boston or something was interested. I just remember reading an article and they're like, oh, this like 6'7", 6'8" guy, maybe he can play point guard kind of thing. You're like, oh. And then he comes comes over. I was like, because again, his first year, he starts off 6.8 points a game, then kind of built, and then eventually, works.
I think you saw the flashes immediately.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Like I remember even after his first season, I was like, this guy maybe is the best player from this draft.
He's super.
And yeah, like he was looking like that immediately. I knew about him earlier. He was actually a guy who was a Hoop Summit possibility. That would have made that team absolutely more ridiculous. But they said, this is Livio John Charles' chance to shine, Giannis. So we're not sure about having you on this already ridiculously stacked, maybe the best team since I've been covering the game. Like that world team was just amazing with Livio, with Dennis Schroeder, with Sergei Karasev, who never misses a shot, Joel Embiid, Karl Anthony Towns, Dante Exum. Yeah, stacked team. I'm sure I'm probably leaving somebody out, but yeah, very, very good. But Giannis was first brought to our attention by a person that used to troll the NBA Draft.net message boards. And I came up with takes saying, I think this guy's name was Vaz Caval, the best center since Arvydas Sabonis. He had, I think, said Nikola Pekovic was the best center in the NBA at one point. Shows us this tape of this young prospect named Giannis Antetokounmpo. At the time, that was how they pronounce his name. And he looked good. He looked quite good. But then, yeah, you heard he's a little raw. He plays in the Greek second division. We're not completely sure. And he comes over, immediately gets playing time with Milwaukee, who I think still one of the worst teams in the NBA. But yeah, just gets better so quickly, has the incredible physical talent, agility, ability to put the ball on the floor, and just absurd strength. And has become an NBA legend en route to being one of the better NBA players of all time. If his career projects as we believe it to be.
Oh yeah, so of this era. But if Giannis isn't number one, who is?
Nikola Jokic. I'm going with Nikola Jokic at number one.
The Joker himself.
So another Hoop Summit guy. I've talked about his Hoop Summit performance a number of times. Him having one of the best scrimmages, one of the most dominant scrimmages I've seen at Hoop Summit, and not necessarily tearing it up during the game, but yeah, plays for mega leaks or mega BMAX or however you pronounce it. But he is in the ABA Liga, is doing well when he gets drafted by the Nuggets. And then he goes back for another season there and does even better. I believe was the MVP of the ABA Liga. And immediately comes to the NBA and has some really outstanding showings during his rookie season. Is, I know, one of an analytics darling immediately, just because he's an absurd passer, and one of his ability as an offensive player from everywhere on the floor is absolutely absurd. He's an incredibly crafty and dirty player as well, which is kind of fun, especially if you're Nuggets fans. Not so much fun if you're playing him.
Especially he also doesn't look necessarily people dog on him for not looking like he's in the best shape, but he still gets by you. He's
doesn't
still
matter.
faster than you. Yeah.
You want to know three players who don't look like they're in the best shape? Nikola Jokic, James Harden, Luka Doncic.
Yeah. No, totally.
Three of the best players in the NBA.
Oh, for sure. No, the thing about I'm in, I think it was 2 years ago in that series with the Blazers, it was the only times I was hopeful that we could win was like getting him off the floor.
Oh yeah.
If he sat out for like a minute, I'm like, oh my God, this is like finally our time to do something, because he was so dominant.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's crazy because he's not, there at this moment. He's 26.5 points a game, 11.5 rebounds, 8.7 assists. Like Russell Westbrook doing the guard doing the triple double for a year. Like it's possible. The center getting the 10 assists, necessary for that. Like that's pretty crazy.
He's one of the best passers, I think, in NBA history, and like I think the best center passer ever. Like I know people could argue like Bill Walton, and I'm sure there are others. It's Nikola Jokic. He's like what he does as a passer is absurd.
Remember they had the bubble.
Larry Bird would be one more if you consider Larry Bird a big.
Remember they had the bubble preseason game and they put like Jokic at like point guard. Like they had this insane like height lineup of just big people. But like, yeah, obviously you can't do that for a full game, but he can kind of do he can kind of be that.
Well, they run their offense through him. They have for years, yeah, and like he is. I think the reason that Jamal Murray could do what he did, like I'll give Jamal Murray credit and say that he's improved a great deal as a playmaker, but I think a huge reason of why Jamal Murray could be what he was last year in the playoffs was Nikola Jokic.
Oh yeah,
and,
on him.
Yeah, I think Nikola Jokic is the early leader in terms of MVP this year. I think you mentioned Nikola Jokic. Giannis still in the conversation, but like Jokic and Embiid have been, I think, having the two best seasons out of anybody in the NBA. And then, obviously like LeBron and, Damian Lillard been playing really well too. But yeah, like it's among those players right now. And and Kawhi Leonard is one I'll throw out there also. But
Jokic is always going to be the 41st pick in the draft.
Yeah.
It seems like so appalling.
Well, but let's also be real in that he played well in spurts of the Hoop Summit, but didn't dominate the game or anything like that. I think it was just no. I shouldn't come up with excuses.
Yeah, I mean
you look good. I think if you watch enough tape of him to know, and credit to Denver because they did the work and they went for it. And I'm guessing people were probably worried about his body and worried about conditioning and all of those things, and if he wanted it, but he wanted it.
Yeah,
it shows. And yeah, he's been absolutely absurd this year. His ability, from I would say from outside of 3 feet of the basket to mid-range 3-point range, unheard of. Absolutely unheard of. The guy has one of the softest touches in the league. And then, can make every pass, incredible court sense, a great ball handler as well. He's just somebody who, and having him over Giannis came down to this. It's just, I know Giannis is a better defender, but I just think Nikola Jokic is one of those guys, when it comes to the playoffs, you can count on him in every aspect of your offense, more so than even Giannis. And yeah, I think the shooting hurts Giannis in the matchup between them.
Yeah, I just think, the skill set of Jokic.
I think it's at least a conversation is who you would rank ahead in, if you were talking about the top 10 players in the NBA. And I think right now, if you're talking about the MVP, I give the edge to Nikola Jokic. Yes, Denver is 7th in the Western Conference, and Milwaukee is, I still believe, 2nd in the East, but their records are almost the same.
And you think about also putting them both in a half court game.
Oh God, yeah.
Jokic, yeah, again, you facilitate your whole offense through more. Giannis again with the shooting and some of those kind of things, but still not taking anything away from Giannis because again, great player. But yeah, Jokic is just so, you know, Kristaps gets the nickname of unicorn, but yeah, like a lot of that could also apply to Jokic.
He's very special, and he's been just fantastic this year.
Yeah, at 25, it's like you hope this young combo like he and Jamal Murray can continue to, you know, grow and, you know.
I think, well, the key is some of the other players too. And yeah, you'd like Jamal Murray to be more bubble Jamal Murray than like kind of basically being he's unfortunately with Jamal Murray he's been kind of similar to like his past few years. And you were expecting him to take the step that you had seen when he was in the playoffs in the bubble. But Nikola Jokic has indeed taken another step this year, and has already been at least he was, I think, All-NBA first team in 2018-19, and then last year he was All-NBA second team with Anthony Davis getting the center spot. This year, the fight for All-NBA first team will be between Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid for the center spot, and we'll see what else happens from there. But yeah, right now, Nikola Jokic, legitimate MVP candidate. And even with Giannis's track record, I think they are at least, there's a question between ranking them when it comes to like top 10 players in the league. And I think this season I'd give the edge to Nikola Jokic at this point.
But definitely like a great list, like super good. Especially that top three is like, we're talking top three also could be considered for top 3 out of, you know, 5 in the league. You know, when you throw LeBron, you know, a couple other guys, but it's like super.
Yeah. Well, 3 top 10 players from Europe. Yeah. Like it's fantastic. And like I think if you have a top 10 list that doesn't feature Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or Luka Doncic, like it's, I don't think a great list right now.
They have the top 10 players in the league.
Yeah, they're 3 of the top 10 players in the league, and you can probably even up that number a little bit. But I just want to say that I hope eventually we get to see some international competition again. And I'd love to see a Eurobasket. We know that Luka Doncic led Slovenia to the last Eurobasket championship. Would love to see what happens with some of these guys playing for their country. Like, would love to see Giannis playing with Greece. Would love to see Jokic playing with Serbia. And Doncic, of course, trying to defend the title with Slovenia. But really fun to go through this list of European players and see how much talent is from the continent. And there is an immense amount.
Yeah, and more.
And there will be more to come.
There's more to come. I mean, there was a couple in last year's draft.
There are some great prospects coming down the pipeline for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty, you know, crazy just to think again, like where it went, you know, 20 years ago. But it was like Dirk Nowitzki, Pau Gasol. I was kind of like, or Tony Parker as well. But yeah, there's been a lot more names to add, and definitely I think like even with some of the historic guys like obviously Dirk, but like Jokic, Giannis, and Luka are three pretty special talents. So definitely pretty awesome. Any other thoughts for the week?
Just going to be watching a lot of basketball still. G League Ignite playing Erie tomorrow. The G League bubble has tons of games every day if you want to check those out. Paul Reed, G League Player of the Week. I know Trey Jones has been playing really well. Some of the other rookies are looking quite good in the G League also. And, if you want that, you want to be the one to say, hey, my team should have picked up that guy. And then when they eventually do, you could have been like, see, I told you so. In my
I was right this entire time.
Twitter account that nobody that works for the team follows. But maybe they did. And you can feel like it could be a conspiracy theory, all of your own.
We're giving you a purpose if you want to take it. But yeah, also, again, we're in those final stretches of college basketball as well. A lot of teams, fighting for their tournament lives positioning. So again, we're going to have some good games throughout the next few weeks before we get into conference tournament time, which hopefully will happen this year. Because obviously that last year, that's when we lost everything, was right at that time. But I couldn't complain about that because it did make the Ducks automatic Pac-12 tournament champions without having to play, which was great. I wish we could do that every year.
Yeah.
That part.
Beyond that.
Yeah. Beyond that, though, I did miss it. But thank you guys so much for sticking around and checking out the episode. If you love the show and what we're doing, we appreciate if you share, tell your friends, spread it out. We definitely appreciate it. If you want to follow me individually, you can find me on all social media at @Visenberg. You want to follow Michael, he's at NBA Draft Mikey V on Twitter. You want to follow the both of us at the same time, pretty much, get all that information at Viseland would be your place to go on Twitter. And also, just shoot us like if you have ideas, suggestions, any themes or things you think are interesting, like shoot us an email, viselandpod@gmail.com. We love talking basketball and, just anything from, modern day current things to also, kind of like history and, just ranking analysis. Like we just love the game. So we love sharing that love with all you guys.
Appreciate the comments from last week and new subscribers. So yeah, thank you for everybody that watches the video. And if you hit like or subscribe, we will be of the utmost appreciation.
So thank you guys so much, and we will catch you all next week.